Americans unhappy with the current state of affairs, would you consider moving elsewhere if you had the chance? Why or why not? I'm an American, unhappy with the way things are, and I did move. I moved during the previous administration, so it wasn't because of the crap storm that's happening right now. But I can tell you that it's not all better, even though I live in a country that people love to visit with a reputation for a peaceful and non confrontational lifestyle. I can tell you that it's not all fun and games. Every country has problems, it's just which ones. While we don't have crazy tipping here, wages have been stagnant for 30 years. We don't have the same insanity in urban housing markets, but we do have homes in the city that are absolutely minuscule. We don't have deplorable maternity leave, but we do have peer pressure to take as little leave, personal, maternity, paternity, as possible. It's like a mixing board. One slider goes down, the other slider goes up. Moving will not fix your problems. Getting out and protesting just might do it. Anyone care to guess where OP might be coming from? Maybe Japan? Story 2. I'm in Scotland and we had average paid jobs. We bought a house in Edinburgh, retired at 45, moved north, and bought a cheaper property. I average 3 holidays a year, some to Europe, some to the Caribbean, and I've been to the USA. I loved everywhere we've traveled, but I love Scotland more. We have beautiful countryside and beaches on our doorstep. In winter, skiing is only an hour away. We have free health treatment, free university, and very little crime in the countryside. I can't remember the last time I locked my doors. Story 3. I'm an American with the privilege of an EU passport. I have considered and will continue considering moving abroad. I would never shut the door on it. However, for all of its problems, I have done very well for myself in this country. My plan and my hope is to complete my working years here and then retire abroad. Considering I'm 36 and retirement is a ways away, I hope the country doesn't go to complete crap. Maybe it's naive of me, but I have faith that the USA will see the other side of this. Story 4. No, because all of the problems that exist in America exist literally everywhere else. Yes, America has Trump and the European Union doesn't, but the European Union has a bunch of people like Trump and they will probably gain more power in the future, not less. The right-wing move against globalization is a global phenomenon. Everything else from climate change to fears about AI to dealing with dwindling resources and migration are global problems as well. Find me a country that isn't dealing with them. To me, the relevant question is, in the year 1900, where would you go to avoid the negative effects of colonization? There really wouldn't be anywhere you could go. You were either in a country doing the colonizing or a country that was colonized. It was impossible to be free of it. It would just be a question of relative comparison, the least worst option. The same is true today. The major BS is everywhere. What's the least worst place for you to live? The United States still has a lot going for it and will continue to. There are many worse places to be. Story 5. The grass is always greener on the other side. The state of American political affairs is purposefully overblown by the media to whip the public into a state of perpetual fear so that they are easily governable. Do what the talking heads say, hate the people they tell you to hate. If you go outside and talk to the average American, they're very generally friendly people. I am good friends with rednecks, lesbians, churchgoers, Hispanics, Asians, etc. America is a great big melting pot, and if you choose to seek it, you can always find a friendly face here. There are many countries in this world where I would find my speech limited because the government does not find it acceptable. There are many countries in this world where healthcare takes months for a checkup. There are countries in this world where gangs pull people off the street and have their way. America has its downsides, I'm not going to deny that. There is always room for improvement, and in my line of work, I have certainly seen a lot of it. But I also enjoy a great many benefits due to my status as an American citizen. Many people forget that English is a globally learned language for a reason, that the dollar has been a global currency for a reason. America has done a great many things for its people and for the world at large, things we now take for granted. Stock supermarkets, HVAC, plumbing, and power are guaranteed in a solid 95% of America. There are small pockets here and there where some live without one or more of these things, but never without all. I'm a Texas EMT. I've seen houses without HVAC with running TVs or without water but a fully stocked fridge. Where could I go that would offer me better than what I already have? Moving to another country, that isn't cheap. It would have to offer a great many things. One does not choose their new country based on political climate. That can change drastically, and you may have need to move again. A great many things are lost in a move, and your safety net of family and friends will be gone. At best, you have your church or some other reliable community to land with, but they cannot and should not be solely relied upon. Although there are some countries in Europe that once held great appeal to me, their rich culture does not offset the flaws and struggles that these countries are currently facing. Were I to move there, I would face not only the same struggles I face here, but a language barrier as well. So I ask you, OP, move? Okay, where? Story 6. A lot of people here are super confident in themselves about staying in the US and wanting to help fix it. I wish I could say the same, to be honest. If I'm being honest, I don't feel safe here, and I haven't felt safe in a long time. Nowhere in the world is perfect, but a lot of places won't try to end me or detain me for just living as who I am. I'm not naive enough to think moving would fix all of my problems, but crap, it would probably help me feel at least a little safer in my everyday life. I don't have a huge sense of American pride because my mother raised me to be practical about my situation. I can't have pride in a country that's in this state, and saying I'm American has almost become embarrassing because of the idiocy of the people who are representing our nation in elected positions. My fellow citizens aren't necessarily to blame, but voter apathy caused a lot of the crap we're going through, and that has led to an incredibly tense and unstable situation for anyone who's part of a minority, and some people who aren't. I'm not in a situation to move abroad, and I hope the country improves drastically before I am, because, truth be told, I don't really want to move abroad when my whole life is here, even given the current state of affairs. But I know that I need to prioritize my safety, even if I look like a coward to some people. Story 7. No, my best moments are spent with my grown children and young granddaughters. I have lived in 4 developing countries for a total of 9.5 years, and I'm here to tell you that culture shock is real and not for the faint of heart. Additionally, I love the principles my country was founded upon as well as the opportunities it has allowed me, so I feel it's my duty to stand by it and vote as long as I have left, even if it's akin to sitting by the bedside of a suffering loved one. Having said that, I would never disapprove of someone else doing so. We all have different breaking points, responsibilities, and loyalties in our lives. I bet after all those years abroad, coming back and dealing with domestic political ads felt like a whole new level of culture shock, you know? Story 8. Absolutely, this country wasn't so great before Trump and MAGA anyway. All he did was make the trashiness of this hellhole more obvious. Trump isn't the reason why we don't have a single-payer healthcare. Trump isn't the reason the federal minimum wage has been stagnant for decades. Trump is not the reason why there's next to no social safety net. Obviously, I would prefer Democrats, but the majority of them don't really fight for us. So fighting the fascists at home just to get back to Joe Biden's status quo isn't enticing enough to risk my life. I'd rather just wash my hands of this country. Story 9. My wife and I, then fiancé, moved to England around 2005. As a journalist, it was relatively easy. My fiancé was asked to help open an office there, and it wasn't a challenge either. We moved back because we were getting married and wanted to be close to grandparents. The biggest challenge was actually shipping stuff. From the West Coast to England took a couple of months, so we had to have a furnished flat. But my God, socialized medicine was incredible. 50% off for the first year, then totally covered thereafter. NHS was very good, save for dentistry. Story 10. It's easy to say, nah, I'm gonna stay and fight to fix it. I wish that were the case, but that doesn't make you better than anyone else, and there is no shame in leaving. Each and every one of us whose ancestors voluntarily came to this land weighed the very same choices as we do, and then left their homes for reasons innumerable. My wife and I have both considered moving. We have a 5-year-old and a newborn to think about. I can try my best to change the world, but my commitment is divided, and the family I've built is my priority. Our safety is paramount. Our quality of life is the next most important. It feels like every day brings us closer to the moment to begin leaving. I hope it never gets there, but I also hope I don't miss the best chance. Story 11. Working on the possibility of that now, I'm of the mindset that I'm just one person with so many years on this earth. I can't control society, and I've already waited around too long trying to do my share for things to get better, and we're not even on the right trajectory. I felt myself getting older. I've felt my health shift. I've experienced job loss, insurance loss, and people telling me it's not that bad and that I'm not trying hard enough. When all I've done my entire life is my best, I'm literally at my breaking point. I deserve a place where I can carve out a stable future foothold of happiness for myself and my future family. Anyone saying I have a quote-unquote duty to stay here and fix things when that's all I've tried to do for the last decade is no different from a cruel ex trying to guilt a partner. The social contract's broken, and I'm done. Finding a society where the contract's not broken is just the right decision. Story 12. We're already in the process of leaving. I've never believed any of what's been told to us in the U.S. My father was drafted in Vietnam and treated like crap by the government and the people for the rest of his life. An act of service that eventually led to a disability should have been taken care of, but was instead met with constant questions, failed payments, rejected increases for food stamps, and constant judgment from the community around us. It taught me at an early age that this country and its people don't care about anyone else but themselves. I've never felt like I belong. I never felt at peace in the U.S. Story 13. I just moved back from 6 years abroad, 4 of those in Germany. I got a little tired of Germany, but I miss Europe immensely. I'd rather not live in Asia, but it was fun visiting. I have been back in the US for less than half a year, and I'm already seeing where else I can go. I love the US. I'm proud to be an American, especially since my own family immigrated here when I was very little. But honestly, the way things are going, it's just not sustainable to live in. I took a job here that pays $4 an hour less than the one I had in Germany, still a good wage for the area. But my housing cost is more expensive, and food, insurance, everything is more expensive. I'm lucky if I can save $50 here and there just to go out with friends. In Germany, everything was closer, cheaper, and easier, except the bureaucracy. I could walk to the store and buy groceries for €40. If I went out drinking, I didn't have to worry about paying for a taxi. I could just take the tram. If I wanted to go to a different town and see something new, it only took 30 minutes by car, maybe an hour by train or tram, instead of taking the better part of a day. I've been heavily debating trying Canada as I qualify for a permanent residency there, but all of my Canadian friends have similar gripes and groans too, and I'm just not sure if it would be a great fit. Story 14. Yes, absolutely. I would move to Europe if I could. The way things are heading here in the US is very bad, to put it lightly. It's not the future I wanted, and I know that I don't have the power to change things as much as I want to. If I could, I would move to another country that takes care of its citizens better than the US does. I've always wanted to live in another country anyway. I remember being in high school and daydreaming about living in Europe as an adult. I'm skeptical that any European country would take me, though. I'm in my early 30s, high-functioning autistic, and no college education. My body is most likely wrecked from more than a decade of chronically high stress levels. I don't really bring anything useful to the table, aside from maybe being kind of fun to talk to if you set me off on a tangent on something I'm interested in. Maybe I'm just being pessimistic. I don't know. Oh, yes, before I forget, other me's over at Rufus Stories doing what he does best, unpacking some crazy relationship stories, man. It's a good time, I promise. Links in the description if you're down. All right, back to our stories here. Story 15. We spent a lot of time talking about this. My wife is in school at the moment and desperately wants to finish. And for us, this isn't a matter of the other party being in power. We understand that there are going to be ups and downs in politics, but the way that the administration and Congress and the Supreme Court has obliterated longstanding law is devastating. We've watched as services and legal protections are being stripped away as power is being consolidated in the executive branch. I have a lot of anxiety about being able to leave or alternatively being able to come back. Sometimes it feels hyperbolic, other times it seems very real. Earlier in the last 6 months, I was really worried about other countries being willing to let us in. We've talked about Canada, somewhere in Europe, or Brazil. Story 16. Honestly, no, I'm not moving. Politics suck in the US, both sides. Nobody has the American citizen as their priority, but Reddit sucks on its own. It's an echo chamber of liberal views. I saw many subreddits today, hoping that a ceasefire between Israel and Iran would fail despite Trump. This website would rather bombs over peace just to push an anti-Trump agenda. The politics are the issue, but the people voting and the leaders are as well. Why wasn't there a Democratic primary? Why was Kamala chosen instead of voted in? This is the issue. Bernie, Andrew Yang, RFK, when liberals still liked him. Shapiro or Ocasio-Cortez would have carried the nation on a ballot easily. None were allowed because the DNC knew best. I'm happy the Democrats lost because she wasn't democratically elected, but chosen. Give the people a voice and see what happens. Reap what you've sown. Downvote me all you want. You know it's true. Story 17. We've started to make arrangements just in case the next mid-cycle election, 2026, doesn't show a major correction. If the House and Senate majorities are maintained by the Republicans, or even if the Democrats barely gain control, I think we're going to move out of the country. My wife was born in France, so we've got that option. We've gotten passports for the first time ever, including for our adult daughter. As someone who loves this country, served in the military, and truly thought I'd never leave, I love my family more, and I won't subject my wife and daughter to what this country may become. Story 18. I already did. I left the US shortly before a viral infection was discovered. While the state of affairs in the US wasn't the main motivator, it was definitely a strong secondary factor. Keep in mind, this was before lockdown, before George Floyd, before the 2020 election, before January 6, before a senile Joe Biden presidency, before the 2024 election, and before, well, all of the current stuff. I admit it is somewhat difficult to get a real sense of the current state of affairs in America from outside of the US, but having easy access to both American news media and foreign news media reports about the US only makes me think I made a great decision. It breaks my heart to admit that I am often hesitant to tell people where I'm from out of sheer embarrassment. When I do meet other foreigners from other countries and tell them where I'm from, I still lean into the stereotype of Americans thinking we are the greatest country in the world. You know, all the USA. We're number one stuff, but it is getting real hard to win those national pride trash-talking contests these days. I am happy enough here, but I am quite homesick. Unfortunately, the home that I long for probably doesn't exist anymore. Story 19. I'm unhappy, and I left. I built my career in a trajectory that would give me opportunities in Europe, and I've been here for a few years. When I was younger, I worked for a doctor who had gone out of Germany during the very well-known dictator's rise. It affected me. Now I live in Germany, and everywhere there are the brass plates in the sidewalks in front of places where those people he ended once lived. It isn't perfect, it's the hardest thing I've ever done, but I wanted a chance at healthcare for me. I have a condition that would bankrupt me in the US, and university for my kiddo without crippling lifelong debt. That, plus workplace protections, have made it worth it. Watching the ice raids, I'm grateful every day that my taxes don't go to pay for it anymore. Story 20. No, I'm 63 and I am where I want to pass away. As long as I can live peacefully in my own home, with my family around me, I'm in heaven already. Administrations come and go, our laws and constitution stand the test of time, it is working. I'm a Democrat living in a Republican state, and I am satisfied with the current state of affairs for Kentucky. I am not a liberal, but I want your rights to be protected and respected. I vote, do you? If you didn't, you're the problem. Don't listen to paid protesters and false accusations of people waving any flags, but the one that will fight for your rights. We are Americans. We won a battle with Spain and got California after Spain had taken California from Native Americans. Mexico battled the United States, remember the Alamo, for Texas. So keep their flag off of our soil. You can wave your rainbow flag, but you must wave it under our flag because it is the flag that is holding on to your rights. Know our flag laws and respect our flag. Know our history and see that Democratic presidents have launched way more bombs than Trump has. Democrats were the first to round up illegal aliens and try to deport them. They failed, so the Republicans are trying. Let them. America's United States is strong and we stand to protect our country, your rights, and your freedoms. You would not be permitted to protest in the country whose flag you are waving. Know your history, and if you don't know it, learn it. Story 21. I left a few years ago because I was heavily involved in the Democratic Party and could see the writing on the wall. I gave many years of volunteering and begging others to join the fight and help, and maybe only 2 of my friends joined me a handful of times. I quickly burned out and felt the best thing for my family and safety was to leave. I knew I didn't have a second Trump presidency in me, and I'm glad I trusted my instinct. Is it hard? Yes. Do I miss my family and friends? Yes. But maybe I'm the planted seed for them if things get even crazier because it's only been 5 months. The peace I have now is invaluable. Not having to worry about everywhere I go is an indescribable feeling. And I don't even have kids. I don't know how parents drop them off every day in the States. Learning a new way of life is fun, even if it can be annoying and challenging at times. I am learning to prioritize my life and well-being over the company I work for and just live. America is a scam. Every day I'm gone, I learn more and more just how big of a scam it is. Kudos to others on here saying they're staying to fight. I put in my time and needed to bench myself. Maybe one day I'll be able to go back home and run for something. Ma'am Danny's win is giving me hope. And if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for more videos just like this. Story 22. The people who can't leave are the ones who are going to be harmed the most. I'm disabled and trans, in case you can't see where this is going. I can't work and I'm on Medicaid and EBT. I get my health care, including trans health care, all through Medicaid. Without EBT, I can't afford to eat. My documents, Florida birth certificate, driver's license, etc., have differing gender markers and names. I have legally changed my name, but because of Florida law, I was already unable to amend my birth certificate by the time I legally changed everything else in 2016. This has made renewing my passport a goddamn nightmare. Even if, when I get my passport sorted because I'm disabled, can't work, and have such complicated health needs, it's unlikely that any country would grant me residency, much less a stable visa. Globally, I'm a burden and a liability. Even if I didn't have these problems, I can't afford to move. I have never had that kind of money. I can't even afford a plane ticket to California. I can't legally or financially live anywhere else. If I stay here the way things are going, I'm going to lose my health care. I'll lose my food. I'll lose my ability to vote. I'll lose my hormones. I'll wither away and lose my life long before the normal people in this country feel any effect to their own life, liberty, and happiness. I'll be an early casualty of the second fall of Rome, and I won't even be included in a footnote of statistics and history. So, yeah, I'd move if I could, but I can't, and a lot of people can't. So, since I have to stay, I might as well fight for my right to exist here. Story 23. Yes, and I am. If everything the Trump administration has done in both terms was reversed, is the country really back to a good place? Not really. We still have all the people who would vote for him. The healthcare system sucks, the education system is sad, etc., etc. I have a family now. I'm not waiting to find out if the US will rebound. I spent the last 15 years trying to stand up for what's best for the people and the country, but I have other things to worry about now. I wanted to leave the country in 2016 because I could see what was coming. The only difference now is that my wife is on board and no one tells me I'm overreacting anymore. Yeah, so leaving the country because the healthcare system sucks and the education system is sad is probably the most relatable reason in history. Story 24. I would. I'm transgender and I don't feel safe here anymore. I was recently looking into Portugal, but I've gotten the impression that they really don't like immigrants because wealthy people have been moving in and taking over. I've been told if you have Irish ancestry that you could immigrate to Ireland, but mine were great great grandparents, and that's considered too long ago to qualify. A lot of countries want specialized skills, and I don't have any of those. The only hope I would have is some country offering refugee status to transgender Americans, but I don't see it realistically happening. Story 25. I'm 55, my parents are 83, and I decided a long time ago that I would stay with them to help them age in place at home because nursing homes are wretched places. I expect they have another 5 to 10 years given how old their parents were when they passed. I'm definitely leaving once they're gone. I see no reason to stay here in the United States, especially when other countries are so much better than ours. It's not that I don't love my country, although I have to say I'm really not a fan of the United States right now. We've just been brainwashed to believe that we are number one in everything when we are so absolutely not. I'm not sure where I'll go just yet. Spain, Portugal, Italy, possibly Peru. Over the next couple of years, I do plan to travel to Europe, explore, and then decide. Story 26. I did it once. I moved to Canada on a work permit and my job offered to sponsor a permanent residency. I was going through the application process, but I moved back to the US because I miss my family and my home. It was a great experience to live in another country, and overall, Canada is a great place to live, but it's not perfect. Yeah, the political system isn't completely broken like ours is, but there is still racism there, for example, and it's not as culturally and economically dynamic as the US is. Plus, it's cold. Would I do it again? Probably not, unless my whole family was able to move with me. Story 27. Sure, I've lived abroad for several years and really just love not being surrounded by idiot conservatives like my dad, who is an actual functioning adult who believes the following. 1. The earth is only a few thousand years old. 2. At one time, all animals could talk, but God punished them and took away their speech because some dude ate an apple. 3. Dinosaur bones were made by demons. 4. We should teach Bible, not science, in school. I'd love to get away from such airheads. I do love the freedom to take grass legally, though. I work hard and I like to unwind with something that won't make me feel sick, like alcohol, and unfortunately, there aren't too many options for that abroad. Story 28. Most people who want to move do not have the funds or resources to move and think by moving to another country all their funding and resource issues will be fixed. Many who don't want to move have done well to establish themselves financially in the US and have their finances and resources in order. If people who wanted to move could, then they would have already done so. I see people complain about their lives here, yet they're working the same part-time job, going through the same motions, and haven't done much to further their careers or their lives. I think they assume by moving to another country, everything will just come easy and be given to them for free or cheap. Story 29. The reality is, it isn't even a possibility for most, unless you're A. extremely wealthy, B. have familial ties to the country you want to go to, or C. specialize in a field of work that can't be filled by a citizen of that country. You're not going to be able to go for more than a few years at best. Nomad visas if your employer will let you work remotely in a foreign country. I briefly looked after the last election, and it isn't even a possibility for me and my family if we decided it was right for us, because we don't have familial ties, highly specialized careers, or a butt ton of cash to put up as an investment in a foreign country. And even though I work from home, my employer limits where I can work from to avoid dealing with taxes in certain states, let alone other countries. Story 30. Nah, we oscillate all the time. In a few years, everything could change. States still have rights and the ability to push back. Federal occupation is not popular. Democracy still in action despite our anti-constitutional federal leaders. There's hope. Look at the administration's approval ratings. It's simply a matter of waiting for the next election. Sure, we could all perish in total nuclear annihilation, but that's a worldwide concern. We have lost rights, ignored the Constitution, and been subject to Gestapo-like tactics. However, I believe common sense wins half of the time. We must embrace those times and push back when our rights are denied. Story 31. There's no easy answer for this question. I served in the Marines, honestly loved the idea of what the US could become under sustained, competent leadership, but hate the current state of events. My wife is an adoptee from South Korea and suffers nearly every day as we live in a state that can't be fully canvassed legally by Border Patrol, and she's already worried due to the cruelty on women's rights and the signaled intent to go after interracial marriages. If I felt like we needed to move to protect her right to just exist without being hassled, we'd move ASAP. Both of us have unique skills and work highly specialized jobs, so we might be able to get work permits elsewhere. I don't have family keeping me here, and neither does she. We really enjoy Canada, so I'd brush up on my French and see if we can't find a spot a few kilometers outside Hamilton or over by Ottawa. Story 32. It's definitely been an appealing idea at times, having lived in another country and loving it. I could easily be happy in another country, but the problem is more so philosophical for me. I can't just bail on my country because I don't like the way things are going. Yes, maybe we're headed towards hard times and maybe life would be easier somewhere else, and maybe not. But at the end of the day, being an American isn't just a passport. It's coming from a lineage of people who were willing to sacrifice their lives and everything they knew just to keep this experiment of a country going. And so far, we have. But if real Americans bail on America, then we have no shot at all. Story 33. Dear God, yes. If I could move to Canada, I'd be the happiest camper. I wish I didn't get screwed out of college because that degree could have helped me immigrate financially, but due to much out of my control, I'm probably screwed for the rest of my life at this rate with how things are going. Definitely a grass is always greener moment, but I don't care. A part of me genuinely is considering just shedding the mortal coil because there's just no hope here anymore for me. Even if the government course corrected, my family will always be shattered by the last decade, and I just have nothing to look forward to anymore. I understand people keep saying it's wrong to feel that way, but nothing feels right anymore and never will again. Story 34. Trust me, if I had a friend in another country, I'd definitely ask. I actually debated moving to the UK after college before I met my ex. She ended any interest I had in leaving as she didn't want to, and I was invested in a future with her. I'm thankful though. Now I'm staying because I'm the only one of my parents' kids who might have children. My sister isn't interested anymore, and my brother is LGBT and hates kids. Both of my siblings are also leaving Kentucky or have already left. I'm staying for my parents. I'm down to relocate if I got back with my ex, since grandkids would be enough to get my parents to relocate. They considered it for my sister when she was engaged for a time, so surely they do the same for me. As of right now, my ex would be the only reason I'd leave Kentucky, so it's probably a low chance I leave. Story 35. I can't stand the people who say, if you don't like it, leave. First of all, when my room is dirty, I don't like it, but the solution isn't to move out of my house, it's to start cleaning the room. We should be fixing what's wrong and seeking improvement. Wanting that makes me more patriotic than the roommate who's trashing the communal kitchen. Secondly, it's friggin' hard, man. Family is here, my job is here, other places may not want me, and even if they do, it's still a hassle to get citizenship. However, that doesn't justify our society putting me in a cruel relationship. If anything, it's more fed up that we're treated like crap since they know it's so difficult to leave. Story 36. Man, that is actually a very tough hypothetical. If I had the option to, I would move away with the family, but that option is made almost impossible in reality because that would take a lot of money and resources to realistically uproot my entire family. On the other hand, it would be so much easier if I were solo, but I think I would feel a moral obligation to stay, knowing that if everyone with the desire and means to leave did leave, a lot of people with the desire to leave but not the means to leave would basically be fresh meat for the fascists, as well as the fact that my decision to stay can't negatively impact any family. Also, if no one is left to question our leadership, then nobody would be around to stop anything. So I think ultimately it would never happen for me. Story 37. These responses are a very good indication of why actual open borders would be unlikely to cause a flood of immigration. Actually leaving requires a combination of ambition, freedom, and motivation together with a lack of vital connections, national pride, and local social responsibility that is uncommon. Actual legal obstacles are also relevant, but the majority of people wouldn't leave even if they could, no matter how bad things got. I'm not recommending staying put since I think immigration is great for all involved. Still, the fears I often hear about mass migration if immigration were easy seem very implausible to me. Story 38. I think the US is worth fighting for, and I'm staying, but I have thought about leaving. It feels existential, so it's impossible not to have those thoughts. Like, my grandparents fled a regime in Europe to come to the US, and they live full and happy lives with tons of heirs. If they had stayed, they probably would have passed away because a lot of people like them did pass away. I can't ask them, they're not around anymore, but I'd love to know if they felt the same responsibility as I do to stay and resist. I'd ask them if they tried to fight the injustice they saw and if it is ethical to flee. I know honor is worth very little when one's bones are crushed beneath a tank, but what about a sense of duty to each other? Doesn't that rise in value in some circumstances? Like if we all flee, who will stop it from following us? Story 39. Of course, I would if I could afford to. I don't like day-to-day life where I currently am, and I don't have enough money to move to a domestic location I might like more. Besides that, I dislike the way the country is trending with respect to political economy. I think the system is so broken it is impossible to fix by reform. It's designed to discourage reform, and political power is concentrated in the hands of a tiny class of people, most of whom are fundamentally incapable of exercising political power responsibly. And even the few individuals within this elite who are decent and genuinely attempt to serve the public get steamrolled by reactionaries. Bernie is a good example here. Republicans didn't need to lift a finger to halt his momentum. The DNC screwed their own constituents, and the country as a whole, instead cramming the wildly unpopular and dislikable Clinton and then geriatric Joe down the public. God forbid the public actually have distinct options to choose from to lead the government, but it's not just Bernie. We don't even get a true two-party state at this point. On the majority of important issues, the parties have the same position. That's why we get politicians and the media creating controversy over surface-level cultural issues around the clock every day. And that's why the rich get richer while the rest of us overwork ourselves to pay rent, suffer health consequences from working constantly and worrying always, take psychotropic medication to get through the day without crying, trying to fight off despair or at least hide it from coworkers. Story 40. Yes, not because I want to abandon the fight for free healthcare and rights that most other developed countries have, but because I might not be able to live here in order to pursue my passion. I'm an animator who specializes in 2D animation, and it is almost impossible to find a studio position in the US due to outsourcing. I have worked freelance for several years and I have realized it's not for me. I also know that due to my chronic pain, I have 3 herniations in my back and have had surgery once for it already. I'm having to decide if I want to get them fully taken out and replaced before I turn 26 and lose my parents' insurance, or risk it and hope my body can heal over time. Both have risks, and permanently altering your body is horrifying to me. I will not be able to afford working in the US due to not having a typical job that provides insurance because my only option is freelancing. My country does nothing for self-employed people. Our income is taxed almost 30%, and we get no benefits, no healthcare, nothing. I genuinely hope one day that 2D studios can make a comeback in the United States, but at the current moment, almost all Western 2D animation is outsourced to Europe or Canada. Genuinely pay attention to the media you watch and you'll see, oh, a Star Wars 2D animated show. Great. I bet Disney's got some great animators. Nope, it's done by a studio overseas. They're cheaper to hire because in the US, studios have to provide certain benefits due to unionization, which is great, but they found a workaround and only animators who are in a studio currently can join the union, so they don't care to fight for it. So yeah, I want to move to Canada. I realize that it is a privilege to be able to have so many options in terms of what you do as a profession where you live. There are tons of people who had moved to the US to pursue their careers. I'm trying to think that what I have to do is similar. Story 41. If I could afford it, I'd already be gone. I want to live in a country that aspires to a high standard of living for everyone. Universal healthcare, little to no taxes that actually benefit the population, and sane politics. I think I could be happy in Denmark, the Netherlands, or New Zealand, but I'm not rich and have no special skills, so it's doubtful they'd take me. I love my country, but don't understand it anymore. The US is too far gone and recklessly charging deeper into the wrong side of history, and I just don't see things getting any better during my lifetime. Story 42. Way ahead of you, mate, waiting for my visa to get approved. The why might be a tad long. In truth, I have deeply hated this country since I was about 6. I wished every week for the people to rise up, destroy the government, and rebuild it all. But I stuck with it because my family was here and they, like hundreds of millions of others, don't see the problems that I do. So leaving the country meant leaving them. Likely forever too, because I also hate traveling. But then my mom's unimaginably bad stroke happened, and then Trump won by a landslide no less, and it dawned on me. My mom only has a few years left, at best, and a significant part of her passed away with the stroke anyway. My dad has already stated that he plans to follow her when she passes away. I'm dang near the age where I will start losing points in visa assessments. All this has shown me that fate has decided to throw at me an additional cruelty. Choose between spending what precious time I have left with my mom and dad, and thus getting stuck in this crap hole forever, or steal my heart and leave them forever. They don't know any of this, nor do I plan to ever tell them the entire thing, but I will tell them I'm leaving after my visa gets approved. Story 43. Absolutely. Everyone here has failed me and I've failed them. I need a new start without the people around me. If I could, I'd move to Ireland, Germany, or Wales and take a cook or labor gig and try to learn about my family history from any of those countries. I'd like to learn and experience their local subcultures and taste the genuine or closest adjacent food that my ancestors ate to better my palate, to actually have a connection to some kind of history to myself. It sounds silly, but I'm jealous of my ethnic friends because they have a cultural identity, and my parents just told me we're white. Like, hell no, I learned I'm Irish, Welsh, and German. I'm not just white. I'm hella white, but with flavor now. Not much flavor because, the Irish, But seriously, I would like to understand my family's history on either of my parents' sides. None of them talked about any of it if they even knew from the start. It's one of the worst things about older white Americans. They literally had no sense of cultural preservation. I feel like the lesser whites of history should have a stronger sense of unity with the POC today. The Germans may not have been slaves. Apparently, the Irish were slaves as well as indentured servants, but that is contract versus involuntary servitude. But they felt oppression in their homelands, which is why they immigrated. They were either occupied, trapped in unlivable conditions, forced from their homes, or worse, so they sought asylum. All of this is why I would move to any of my ancestors' countries, Ireland specifically. I know my family is originally from somewhere in Down or Antrim, I think. Anyway, I want to learn more of my history and the continued fight for liberation against conquerors. I want to be able to aid that continued battle here with the knowledge and tact my history could teach me. Story 44. Oh yeah, I absolutely would. I also hate having my car and keeping up with all the maintenance here and there and nearly always. So it would be really nice to live somewhere with a decent public infrastructure and a walkable city, something literally everywhere else outside the United States that I've visited has, plus no political crap show. I just want a walkable city and I'm not getting that in my town, or more accurately, I feel like we'll have rail when I'm 60 or 70, and I'm not waiting that long to live in the city I want to. I have one more year of school and once I'm out, I'm still highly considering getting out of here. And also, affordable healthcare. You have no clue how stressed I am right now being off insurance and not knowing what to do. And don't you get sick, it'll cost you a lot to see a provider, and don't you take time off like, oh man, would it be nice to have a healthcare system where you're not paying $600+ for an appointment or having to worry about taking an ambulance. How nice and stress-free it would be, and also be somewhere where society actually values having a life and balanced time to live with weeks at a time off, such as I've heard in Europe, rather than working 24/7. It's so tiring here, I swear. And if any of these stories got to you, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. I'll catch you in that video.